Welcome to Inspired by Success, the podcast where I deep dive into the mindset of successful entrepreneurs, CEOs, and thought leaders. Get ready to be inspired and gain valuable insights to unlock your true potential. Hi guys, welcome to Inspired by Success. I'm your host, Linda Vo, and today we've got a super exciting guest with us, introducing Calvin Boy. Calvin's a chef, YouTuber, author, and street food guru. From overcoming adversity to shaping a vibrant culinary community, his journey is a testament to resilience. Starting with humble roots and rising from homelessness to culinary stardom, Calvin's story is one of transformation. But what truly sets him apart is his mission to empower others. Join me in exploring his remarkable journey where personal growth ignites the power to uplift others. So without further ado, welcome to the show, Calvin. I'm super excited to have you on the show.
Thank you for having me. I really am excited to be here.
I am a huge fan of your show and I love watching FK and Delicious, and also you're a co-host of the best ever food review show with Sunny. So especially during the pandemic times, we always look forward to watching you guys. And it's just incredible to see your journey so far. So take me back to how it all began, because you've had such a life and incredible journey. So tell me all about it.
I can't pinpoint any one moment in my life that it really changed anything. I think it's always been an ongoing journey. It's really about now when I really look back upon everything and to think that it brought me to this current day. I mean, we have a lot of goals in our life that we set upon ourselves based on our surroundings, our understandings of life, our understandings of ourselves. And we always aspire, I think, as human beings to evolve into something larger and greater. But I have to say that when you make these goals in life and you make these ambitions, you never think about where it'll take you to. You always think, oh, it's going to be great. Life's great. If I only had this, if I only had that, my life would be just so much better. But it comes with so much responsibility. It comes with so many pros and cons. I remember there was a time in my career as a chef where all I wanted to be was number one. And I would do anything to get there. I became the loudest chef in the room. I became the one who believed that I was just better than everybody else. And yes, it did bring me to stardom. It did bring me to a level of a celebrity chef. But when you get to the top, there really isn't anywhere else to go. And you always think, once I'm on top, life's going to be so great. I won't fly coach anymore. I'll fly business. Or I won't eat a $2 steak. I'll eat a $200 steak. But those things don't make you any better. And so as I've gone further into life, I think I just started to think to myself about what was the whole purpose for? Why did I do all things that I've done? I don't regret anything. There are a few things that I would definitely not do again in this current day, but it brought me to where I'm at now. And where that is a life that I truly ask for nothing in this world. I don't ask for any more accolades. I don't ask for any more media attention. I don't ask for any more money. All I want in life is to be able to wake up every morning and to do something that isn't about me. And so in this current path of life, I'm willing to give up everything that I've worked so hard for over the last 20 years to go live a life that is beyond simple. I'm willing to give up everything that I've built, restaurant-wise, name, stature, everything. When you don't have it, all you think about life is, God, please get me out of where I'm currently at. Because if I only could have a little bit of it, my life would change so much. The reality of it is that it was never about having it. It's always been, at least for me, about experiencing it, learning it, and then sharing it with others and asking nothing in return. I think your audience right now is probably wondering, what the fuck am I talking about? What am I babbling about? 20 years ago, I started my career as a chef, and I'd gone to college. I had worked on Wall Street. I was a banker. Wow. I did quite well for myself. Sold my first company at 23, at least my share of the company. And I traveled the world, but through a different lens than I have now. It was very about me. It was very about how great am I? Look at me. I'm the best. And when I was traveling, I kind of realized that no one really cared about what brokerage I worked at or what area of New York I lived in or what restaurants I went to or even what school I went to. All they cared about is, could I pick oranges faster? And it made me kind of realize that even though I did well in my first career, maybe this wasn't for me. Maybe this wasn't my end all. So I got back to the States. I enrolled into culinary school. I think culinary school is good for some. In this day and age, if you really want to learn, you can work in any kitchen. There's plenty of people who need good help. Whether you know what you're doing or not, just listen and practice. I started my career and I started my schooling And schooling was a little slow for me, only because I've gone through schooling in the past. So I got a job at night, washing dishes at first, prep cook, rolling spring rolls. I won't mention the restaurant that I originally worked for, only because of the relationship that chef and I have. I spent 4 years working, and we, as a restaurant group, opened up 2 more restaurants during my time there. I should have gotten the keys to the castle. And that was, I think, what the plan was for me all along, was to give me the keys to the castle and let me do what I do best. And I was part of 27 at this time, and some friends who were still in the baking industry said, hey, why don't you open your own restaurant? We'll fund it. And I thought to myself, oh, that sounds like a great idea. So I left the chef, I left the family, I left the group, and I didn't do it in a manner that I would do now. I think about how many chefs I've trained through my career. Some have stayed, some have gone on, but we've always had clarity about what it was in that chef and mentee role. And I did something to him that I would never do to the human being. I just basically left. And I started my first restaurant. It did well. Second restaurant, it did not do well. This brings me into 08, 09. And I moved to Vietnam thinking that if I could build restaurants in San Francisco, I can build restaurants anywhere in the world. Little did I know that it would have brought me such great failures in life. And it wasn't anybody in particular, but it was purely me. I take full accountability of why my life was the way it was for those 6 years. I was just not a good human being. But I still, even with the struggle, I still believed that the next day was going to be better. I still believed that I just had one more opportunity. If this restaurant closes down, I'll regroup, I'll do it all over again. It taught me grit, it taught me determination. And 6 years, I'm living on $5 a day. I could have gone back to the States. I could have gone right back into the kitchens over there and probably picked up where I left off, but I didn't. I kept at it. I kept living that life until one day it just got better. And it wasn't an easy road. It was a very challenging, very lonely. You're constantly questioning yourself, but eventually the failure stopped and then success started. Now, if you would have told me that I would be where I'm at today in my career, on social media, as somebody who has a voice in this industry, I would never believe it. I think that's what really caused a lot of that failure, was that I couldn't believe it and I couldn't see it. But I wasn't willing to work for it back then. And that's what basically caused all the failures. You want it. You're not willing to sacrifice everything you got in life for it. Then you don't really want it enough. You want the good parts about it. I want to be on TV. I want to have articles written about me. I want to have a mass following, but I wasn't willing to work for it. So after that, after 6 years of failure, year 7 got better, year 8, a little more better. And through those years, it's not that long ago. I remember that I was poor just 8 years ago. And when I say poor, I mean $5 a day. I don't know how much more poor you can be in life. And it's not that long ago. And I remember it so well. But I don't allow that fear to inject itself into me. I don't let the fear of going back to $5 a day scare me. Through that year 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, I just kept doing what I do best. Just put my head down and work. At that time, I had a great wife who believed in me, who allowed me to rediscover who I am or who I always should have been. It wasn't easy for her. I know being with me is not an easy thing, but she did it. And I owe all of my success to that person. Pre-COVID, I was on a pretty hot streak in my career, whereas before, everything I touched would fail. Here in Vietnam, there was a time where everything I touched, it just hit. It was like I couldn't go wrong. And I got too into myself. I got too into the Calvin Bowie brand and what it meant and the feeling that I got when I walked into a room or I did a chef demo or I was on TV or whatever the case was. I really allowed it to make me become somebody who I always wanted to be. So COVID comes around. And in Vietnam, luckily, we had a few waves of COVID. So there was a point in life where the rest of the world had COVID. But here in Ho Chi Minh City, we lived as if nothing was wrong. And it was an amazing time to be alive, especially when the world was so somber. Vietnam was so thriving. And I saw so many of my friends and their restaurants go down because of COVID, because of the restrictions. And luckily for us, we pivoted. We figured out ways to still stay open. We figured out ways to still do business through our restaurants. We did a lot of frozen foods. We made it. We were very fortunate to make it. I think, again, it was part luck, part skill. Sunny and I had filmed as many episodes as we possibly could during the lockdowns. We did everything from food delivery to just challenges in the studio, like anything we could possibly do.
I remember.
But eventually, his occupation thrives on viewership. Without viewership, there's not much to do. And the team and myself and Sunny have came up with every idea we possibly could to film. And eventually he said, hey, I'm going to go to the States. Now, bear in mind, I had not been to the States from '09 to 2021. I was poor the first 6 years. And then the remaining 6 years, I was too busy working, trying to make money. And I think when people think about restaurateurs and think about chefs, they think, oh, it must be so great to open your own place and build restaurants. It is amazing. It is a joyous and grateful opportunity, but it comes with so much responsibilities to your staff, to your customers, to your vendors, to your landlord, to everybody. And at that time, I think we had probably like 4 restaurants and 1 cocktail bar. I mean, I was stretched way too thin because I always believed that I needed to have those things in order to be Calvin Boone. So Sunny one day says, hey, I'm going to go to the States. Why don't you come with me? Come with me. We'll film over there. We'll figure things out. And when the borders reopen, we'll come back to Vietnam. And I remember I said to him, I'm like, your income bracket is up here. Mine is down here. There's a huge disparity between his income bracket and my income bracket. He works for it. And I give it to him. I said, I can't just leave my wife. I can't just leave our businesses. I can't just leave everything that I've built thus far. He's been such a great person in my life. Like, okay, well, that's fine. Then I'm going to go and I'll call you when I'm back. So I go home and my wife and I talk about, the day and how it's hanging out with, your bestie and what you guys do. And he said, hey, you know what? He wants me to go to America. And she's very supportive. So what do you want to do? And I'm like, well, I'm not going to leave you. We're at the hip. We built what we have to this very day together. We started with absolutely zero, maybe even -0. And so I'm not going to leave you. And she said, okay, that's fine. That's your decision. And we went on our day. And the next morning she said, hey, listen, I think this is an opportunity in life that you're never going to get again. You're never going to get a chance to go with Sunny to America and film with him. And it's both your first time. Vietnam's closing down its borders. It's going to get really tough coming the next 6 to 12 months. And at that time, we didn't know what was going to happen, but we knew that we weren't through the hardships of it all. And she said, why don't you go to America, go on this biggest adventure you'll ever have in your life. And when you get back, you can tell me all about it. Now, not being in America for 12 years, a lot of things have changed. It was such a great opportunity. And during that time, I think most of the people on social media or on YouTube or even on television, they don't know that I'm actually a chef. They think I'm just a host, an MC, somebody who loves food. But the reason why I am where I'm at, because I put in the years of training. I put in the years of eating, research, understanding the story of food, not just what I taste. So I went, and never have I been stopped in the middle of the street and have somebody say, hey, I know you. In Vietnam, they know me as a chef and as an entrepreneur. And that's pretty much it. And they know Sunny as literally that guy with the bandana. We don't get stopped out here. No one cares what we're doing. We're just 2 regular people here in Vietnam. But overseas, it is completely different. And the first time I got stopped, I remember I called him. I said, hey, somebody just stopped me in the middle of the road and they wanted to get a picture with me. And I said, what do I do? He gave me some really good advice. He said, if they give you 5 minutes of their time, you give them 10 minutes of your time. You give them every single bit of who you are. Because for somebody to come up to somebody else who they've watched, they might have admired, they might have go as far as idolize, it is one's job in the public eye now to give them an experience that they'll never have ever again. And not everybody is going to do that. I don't say that it has to be a certain way, but I think if you have that ability to be present and to be in somebody's realm, their universe, I think it's really important to utilize it. And so as time went on, it happened more and more. It happened in different states and different cities. It happened at a gas station one time in New Mexico. To this day, it still happens. Now when it happens, I'm definitely more aware of it. And then I always try to ask about them and really spend time learning about who they are and just leaving them with a few words of encouragement. Okay, I want to go right back to where we traveled the world, him and I. We went through a lot of stuff. Some things we did together, some things I did solo, he did solo. But eventually, borders opened up. We come back to Vietnam. I started doing therapy January of 2022. And I went through online therapy for about 5 months. And it really allowed me to find my voice in this life and to look at life differently than I had been in the past. It really brings you center line to where you're at right this moment. And I think that for those who have always been thinking about therapy and have the ability to do so, I think it's really great. Finding a therapist, Not all therapists are built the same. I had all these ideas about, okay, what do I want to do in my life now? And if I became an author, what would I write about? Or I became a full-time YouTuber, what would I YouTube about? Or became just whatever, still about me. So I got back in May. We got divorced the very next day. Happy divorce. I was the one who did it. And I had my own reasonings to do so. And from that moment onwards, I spent over a year thinking about what could I do now? I didn't have a good balance in my life at that time, still trying to do everything all at once. And it's not a bad thing to be an overthinker. It's not a bad thing to be an overachiever, but you got to ask yourself, why? Why do you want to do it for? It's because of fear, because you don't think you have enough. You don't think that you're comfortable in your own skin. You need more in order to be somebody. All these things were going through my mind. There are a few books that I've read during that year of just figuring things out. I tried my hands at a few ventures, only to realize that my heart really isn't there as it used to be. I don't want the public eye. I really enjoy my privacy. I don't need to do anything in order to make more money, because you can't really take it with you. Without kids, without a partner in life, without a wife, then I am pretty okay with where I'm at. So I tried a few things. I wrote a few business plans out. I started, and along the way, I just found that either I was pushing myself way too much, trying to get something that wouldn't bring me any more joy to my life. And I learned how to say no. I learned how to just say, no, I don't need this, or I don't want this. Go through life not knowing. We're now in August. So about 6 months ago, there's a media company out here called Etc. And I've known the CEO for a long time. I've seen him grow. I've seen his company grow. He offered me an opportunity to just do some light freelance work. And as I always do, just say, okay, and I figure it out from then. So every year, that media company puts on a F&B conference. It started 5 years ago. I was one of the presenters of the award show. It happened in a courtyard, and I can say that we as a media company did not know what we were doing 5 years ago. But I was part of it, and I've always been part of it throughout the years that I've been here. And he offered me a curating opportunity this year, and he said, listen, I have the team. I have the foundation and the outline. All I need to do is have you come in and see what you want to do with it. Okay. So the team and I worked really hard, and we put on an amazing, it's more than just an event. It was multitudes of events and conferences, and that team did an amazing job. Then after that, he offered me an opportunity to work alongside him at his restaurant. I took that on.
Did you shut your other restaurants by that time already?
So in the divorce, we all picked one business each, and we just split it into two. The taco restaurant, El Camino, I think it would do better in my ex-wife's hands than with my hands. And so even though it's something that we both built together, I want to see that business do as well as it possibly can. So I don't hold on to anything in this world. And I think it's doing really well now. I'm very happy for her and the team and everybody who's been part of it. So then I come on board as their new executive chef and partner, and we started to really clean house and do things that both him and I could never imagine, but together we could really do a lot of great things. But maybe about a month ago, I asked for his time for coffee, and I said, hey, I don't think that my heart is in this as much as I thought it would be. When you have a partner who believes in you, who's seen you grow, he's definitely helped my career flourish through what he's put together in the past, through the articles, through the media, through the opportunities. He's seen me grow as a person, as a chef. And he said, what do you want to do? I said, I don't know. I have no fucking clue. I said, but I do know this. I do know after 14 years of being in this country, a country that's given me everything that I have to this day. People can say things about Vietnam all they want, but this country has given me every opportunity. Even when things sucked in life, this country still allowed me to flourish. I owe this country everything. I've worked hard on getting my own TV show on national television, building restaurants that only hire, local Vietnamese, and trying to buy as many local products from the farms as possible. I am a voice here in Vietnam. Of course, Luke Nguyen is a good friend of mine, and we all call him Mr. Vietnam. Luke has been so kind to me in saying, hey, I think it's time for you to take the torch and for you to go around the world and show the world what the new Vietnam looks like. So, a lot of things have happened through the last 18 months, but Vietnam is such an amazing place. But to me, it's too amazing. It's like my golden handcuffs. It's too easy. I walk out in the street, you get noticed, for all the good things. You get invited to some amazing dinners. When Michelin came to Vietnam, they contacted us, etc. We had a nice long talk with them. I have it too easy here. And so when I said to Hao, I said, hey, I think I want to see the unknown. I think I'm ready to go and just go out there. He was somebody, even though he is much younger than I am, he is somebody who truly sees the potential in me, even when I don't even see it myself. And he said, why don't you go around the world? But this time, not with the money that you had when you sold your first company, and not with a mindset of, I am the best and look at me, but with the mentality of, why don't you go around the world, put yourself through some challenges, through some hardships, and why don't you document everything? Why don't you do it in the most rawest format so that you can go and show people what life is like if they're willing to take this opportunity? I get a lot of people who tell me, hey, I want to do what you do. Great, go do it. They probably have a better phone than I do. They probably edit better using these new apps than I do. They're better at speaking. Everybody is better than I am, except that they don't want to do it. They can talk about it, but they're not going to do it. So I went back to my house. The next day I woke up, I looked at my living quarters differently, and I asked myself, what in this place is holding me back? I talk a big game. I talk a game about believing in yourself, investing in yourself, read books, fail. I love failing. I talk a big fucking game about going and live your best life. And I looked around, and yes, I have emotional ties to each piece in this house, only because I chose every single piece. It was the first time in my life that I got to choose these pieces versus taking hand-me-down. And I remember looking on Facebook on the youth section, and I remember making deals happen. I remember getting deliveries made, and I have emotional attachment. But other than that, it means nothing to me. I remember that night I had friends in from Melbourne in Vietnam, and I'm like, hey, why don't I make dinner for all of us tonight? They were craving tacos. It's what I do best. So they all came by, and I broke the news. I said, I'm going to leave Vietnam after 14 years of living here. I'm going to leave everything I have in this world, and I'm going to live out of a suitcase. 7 t-shirts, 2 khakis, 1 jeans, 2 shorts, 7 socks, 7 underwear, 2 pair of shoes, and that's it. And it was a shock to everybody because they're like, what's wrong with you? Are you going through a midlife crisis? What is it? I mean, you have a great place and you have a great life. You have a life that everybody would love to live in Vietnam, and you're going to give it all up. So I'm not giving anything up. I'm just starting the next chapter. And somebody at dinner, he says, if anybody could fucking do it, it's you. And I go, oh. And Australians, I find, speak from the heart. You and your deeply meaningful. It's always from the heart. I go, okay. So that moment went online. And again, you can talk a big game. Everybody talks a big game to me. And I always ask the hard questions. Did you do it yet? So I went and bought a one-way ticket to LA, where my dad's at. And I started to untangle the things that I've built over the last 14 years. And in doing so, not only do you start making these new aspirations and new ambitions in life. Remember, 8 years ago, this ambition of just getting out of being poor and one day having one restaurant, just maybe owning one house. Fast forward 8 years later, I have everything I ever asked for and then some. Then I realized that having it made me no different, made me no better. And it's easy for me to say it now because I've already accomplished it. And of course, 8 years ago, if you said, what are you going to do? I'm going to say, just try not to die. It's so much easier now, but once you're able to do it, and once you're able to overcome these challenges and hardships, you realize that nothing in life is impossible. Everything is possible. Absolutely nothing is impossible in life. So I'm going to go put my money where my mouth is at, and I'm going to show people that nothing is impossible. So I leave Vietnam October 15th, and then I head to the States. I'll drive my old beat-up car around the country and meet as many fans as possible. And they don't have to be Instagrammers or influencers. I will meet anybody along the way. As long as you're on my route or you're not too far off, I will come by, I'll turn my camera on, and we'll have coffee, and I'll ask about them, and I'll give them a moment to shine. I'll be on the road for maybe about 2 months, staying in some seedy hotels, staying in some rest stops. I don't know. I really don't know. But that is the goal. And that is the goal, to show people that we are all human beings. There is no race card. I didn't choose which vajayjay I came out of. I didn't choose what city or state or country I came into this world. But I choose to be the person I am today. So after I do the tour around the States, Jan 1, I will see whatever ticket is the cheapest to fly from Houston to Asia. And again, I say cheap because this whole trip, I'm budgeting $30,000. Now, to some people, that's a lot of money. And I'm not saying it's a small amount of money. It is a stack of cash. The reason why I chose that number is this. Everybody always says, I want to do what you do. I want to be like you. Okay, go do it then. Go read a ton of books. Go eat really healthy or eat healthier, sleep early, don't drink, meditate, work out, and help everybody around you and ask nothing in return. That's all I do. And if you don't have 30, which a lot of people don't have 30,000, then you might have 15. And if you're willing to work a part-time job in America these days, 4 or 5 hours a day, you could probably bank in 15,000 in a year. Just save it. Don't buy sneakers. Don't buy watches. Don't buy anything. Just save your money. And so you don't have 30 for the year. You have 15 for 6 months. Kind of hard to argue with me. That's what you want, but you don't have 15,000. And if you don't have 15,000, go get a job, a second job, and you'll have it. And if you don't have 15,000 and you still want to do what I do, then do 7,500 for 3 months. I think 3 months will really show you the world. And if you don't have 7,500 for 3 months of living abroad, then you're not really ready yet to go live overseas. That's the bottom line. And if people want to say, oh, I say it because I have it because I worked my ass off.
You worked a long years to grow where you are too. So yeah, props to you on that too.
So every country, there's a budget of $2,000. And every week, I'll go into a new city and I have $500 to spend for 7 days or 6 days. Breakfast, lunch, and dinner, coffee, housing, $500. So what people usually spend on some knick-knack or a pair of shoes or whatever it is, $500 per city to live. And again, if you want to go somewhere and you only have $500, I'm going to show you how to do it.
That's awesome.
So I decided to start writing guidebooks, how-tos, film everything. And it's 12 countries in 12 months with 48 cities. At the end of the day, there'll be 12 guidebooks and one larger book about how I traveled the world for 30,000. And if I'm still alive, if we're here January 1st, 2025, and if I still want to go live on the road, if I still want to live out of a suitcase, if I still want to go learn different languages and just live life, maybe I'll do it all over again and do another 12 months somewhere. Or maybe I'll find something else that inspires me in this lifetime. But for right now, there is only one purpose and one journey, and that is to go and just go live. I get this a lot, and even from other YouTubers, from Sunny, from Mark Wiens, from Trevor, from Mike Chen. They're like, how do you sit there and answer every single comment? How do you remember these things about everybody? And I'm lucky enough that my numbers aren't that high, where I have very strong personal relationships with people. I wake up in the morning at 6 and I leave voice messages for people who message me overnight, and time differences around the world. But I spend a lot of time just leaving messages about hope, about aspirations, not inspiration, but aspiration. Not everybody in this world can help other people out. It takes a certain mindset, but you can't help others out until you help yourself out. You can't share people how to live their life if you haven't lived your life yet. So I'm going to go live life. And I'm going to see what happens. And no longer am I going to make these bad decisions that I did 8 years ago. And I've had to forgive myself. I've had to understand that I am no longer that person anymore, and that my mindset now is much stronger. My skill sets are much stronger. My ability to see danger is much clearer than it was in the past. Along the way, if I ever feel that I am in danger or that my health is not to its optimal peak, I will just take a first one-way flight back to Vietnam, I'll figure out my housing. I don't need to finish this for anybody. I don't need to show anybody that I can do this. This is all for me. And for those who want to be along for the journey, who want to see real life really just transgress within hours of it happening. I'm sure it's been done by so many people. I don't compare myself to others. It is my own journey. And I look forward to see how it opens up my mind and what skill sets it brings into my life. Living on that bare minimum, in the States, I had it. I came to Vietnam, I had nothing, and I built something. And so I'm going right back to where I was at in '09, back against the wall, hungry, trying to thrive. I think whatever is to come, that is the journey that I choose. I don't do it for the gram. I don't do it for the numbers. I don't do it for popularity or anything. I do it because I can. And if I don't do it, who will? I've taken a lot of the responsibilities in the world about being Vietnamese, about being Vietnamese American, about being somebody who's always gone against the grain my entire career, because I knew that going this route was the way that was going to bring me to something more fulfilling. So I take off pretty soon, and I haven't really made the full announcement yet, but I'm sure I'll make the announcement before this podcast comes out. And my hope is that somebody at 3 a.m. who doesn't want to be part of this world anymore watches one of my videos or listens to one of my Q&As, or just somebody says, hey, if this idiot can do it, maybe I can do it too. Maybe, just maybe, I can do this. And I think that's what the purpose of life is.
That's so inspiring.
It was never about me. It was all these pieces got me to where I'm at now, in a way where, yes, you have the skill sets, yes, you have the confidence, but that confidence isn't what you walk into the room with. Hell, if I walk to the room, no one would ever know I'm even there. I don't speak about I, try to speak in the whole we format. All those pieces of life, from my childhood to adolescence, to my teenage years, to my college years, to the ups and the downs, and the really downs and the really ups. Everything brought me to where I'm at today. A life of selflessness, a life of just giving, and a life of true exploration. Experiences mean everything to me right now. And if I can bring the audience with me to these experiences and not care whether you get the views or not. I let that thing go a long time ago. Whether there's 1 view or 10 million views, it doesn't matter to me. What matters to me is that I never said no. What matters to me is that I never gave that opportunity and said, no, I don't think I'm going to do that, because at the end of the day, we all think we're going to be this old person with gray hair and only a few teeth left, and we're going to have this great life that we live. That's all a lie. It can end at any single moment. And when it does end, it's not about what you purchased in this world or how popular you are, what you've achieved. It's how many people did you touch in this lifetime to make their life a truly better place. And again, there's no right or wrong. That's just how I see life. And those who disagree with me, it's perfectly fine. I could care less. I've learned the way to think. I've learned this mindset through living, through experiencing, through reading the people around me, the conversations I've had. And I'm always constantly evolving. People always want a life that's so perfect. Humans are not supposed to have a life that's perfect. Our job in this life, whatever this may be, is to solve problems. That's what we're here for. And so we'll see what happens to me. If we have a conversation on Jan 1, 2025, we'll see how my mindset's changed. I might fucking hate traveling. I might fucking hate living in a hostel or a bus station or eating convenience store food. I might hate doing this, but you're not supposed to love life. You're not supposed to love everything. You're supposed to go through hardships. You're supposed to go through challenges in life and find the people that help you grow. And if no one to help you grow on your own. 55 minutes. I did all the talking. All the talking on this podcast. What kind of podcast is this?
I do want to get a couple more questions in, but that was really, really incredibly inspiring and just blew my mind with the story. But I wanted to ask, what was that one pivotal moment that changed your mindset? Because you said that Calvin wanted to be number one, had so many achievements and whatnot, but what was that pivotal moment that changed and flipped it? And when you realized that it's not all about you, and what shifted your mindset? What was that moment?
I was in America. Sunny was in Minnesota. I was in San Francisco. We had just got to the States. We split up for the first month and a half because we weren't going to shoot yet. And I have some really great people in my life who said, come back to America, even though it's been 12 years, we'll figure it out. We'll help you as much as possible. And I was living in San Francisco at an apartment that had nothing in it, only because he was going to start renovation in a few months. So there was power, there was water. That was it. And another friend gave me some camping equipment to sleep on. So I had a cot, a sleeping bag. And this was San Francisco. It's cold. I had this book in my hand that I was holding on to for so long. It's from an author called Mark Manson. He wrote a book called The Subtle Art of Not Giving a Fuck. And I had this book in my hand for the longest time because how that book made me feel about myself or how others would interpret me by having this book. Yet I never read the book. And so one day, it's not much to do when there's no Wi-Fi in the house, there's nothing. You're just staring at a window that looks out to somebody's backyard. And I'm like, you know what? I bought this book. I was given this book in Vietnam. I brought it from Vietnam to America. I haven't opened it yet. I might as well open it now. So I opened it. And this book, depending on who reads it or what they're going through in life, my takeaway from this book was I am nobody. And this world will continue to move on way after I'm gone. I am not that important that the world's going to stop what it does when I'm no longer here. There might be a few people who spend a few minutes remembering about their experiences together with me, but their lives go on. But the takeaway was, I am nobody in this world. The moment that I was able to say that word, that I am nobody, the weight of the world just completely washed over me. I don't need to talk about millions of subscribers or millions of views or this accolade or that media. I am nobody in this world. And that started to really open up something inside of me where when you go into a room, people always ask, what do you do? And I said, nothing. What do you mean nothing? You're Calvin Bowie. You always have something going on. I go, nothing. I am nobody in this world. I am absolutely nothing. And then there's always a weird pause. And I am the king of weird. And I tell them, you only asked me what I did so that I could ask you what you did because you're so narcissistic about your own personal needs and validation. And they go, no, that's not what it is. I go, yeah, it is. Because without a title, you can't be anybody. And so I talk to young chefs and young restaurateurs and young social media influencers. Like, why do you do what you do? Why do you want to lose your privacy? And why do you want the world to know what you're eating? Why does your top 5 things that you ate today matter to anybody? I don't fucking care. Did I ask you what the 5 things you ate today? No. But you thought that you needed to tell everybody. Social media could be really great. It could be really shitty. And so I started to live this life of nothingness. I started to live a life of just what are my necessities and what does that cost me on an every month basis. Now, living in Asia, it is cheaper than living in other parts of the world, but I assure you that you can live in Japan. And people think Japan's really expensive. There are certain things that are very expensive. I was out there in February. It's my first trip on my own after the divorce. I was instilled all this fear about money and not having enough of it and things are so expensive. And when I realized that you could live in Tokyo for 30 days, lodging, food, coffee, maybe even some entertainment, you can do so for $2,000 and under. It just made me realize that nothing is out of range. Now, you have to have expectations. And if you don't stay in Tokyo, then your money goes further and you might want to go to Kyoto or you might want to go Osaka or even a smaller place like Sapporo or Nagasaki. But you still will be able to find the basic necessities, which is a roof over your head, some sustenance in your body. And it may not be what everybody else is eating, but it'll bring you sustenance to get you to that very next day. And so things like that started to open up for me. And then I started diving more into just unattachment, to believing in yourself. I mean, I still talk a lot of shit to myself. I think it's fun. I know people say to me, oh, you shouldn't speak so negative because you're putting yourself into the world. I will do what I want because it brings me joy. But at the end of the day, I realized that if you have this, you live within this. And if you aspire for more, if you want more life, go get it. But if you don't get it, don't feel bad because you don't have it and somebody else has it. We always compare ourselves. We always go, why don't I have it? Why does that person have it? Why do I have it? It is a life of solitude. It is a life of being on your own and being very comfortable with just yourself. And there isn't any one book or any one podcast, and there's no hacks to figure it out. You just got to do what you believe in. And maybe life allows you to see a different interpretation of it. But I say to everybody, if you're not happy with your life the way it is, go make the change. If you can't make the change, go figure out how to make the change. There's so many unbelievable authors out there who can show you how to do it. And if you can't afford the books, most of the good books that I read are all on YouTube, and they're all an audiobook, and it's free. And if you can't sit there and listen to somebody else read, then the problem isn't the world. The problem is you. So take it down to the very base, the very foundation of what it means to live a good life, and start building there.
It's very, very inspiring, Calvin. What advice would you give to somebody who is going through tough times or going through challenges? What advice could you give them, or aspiring to be like you too, as you've mentioned your journey as well? You start the low cost. If you wanted to travel the world, you don't even need that much money. So what advice would you give to others?
My best advice, I think I'll do it in 3 parts. 1, stop blaming everybody else. Take accountability. You are where you're at because 7 years ago, whether you knew it or not, you planted a seed. And that seed could have been a seed of positiveness, could have been doubt, but you planted that seed. No one planted that seed for you. So plant a new seed today so that 7 years from now, you can be in a different space. Take full accountability of where you're at. If you are overweight, how did you get there? No one force-fed you that meat pie. You put that meat pie in your body. You keep doing it. That's where you're at. Take accountability. My cholesterol is high. My blood pressure is high. Whatever you don't like. 7 years ago, you started this journey. And that's where 7 years later, you're currently here. Don't write stuff down. Don't journal. I mean, this for me, I don't need you to write stuff down. I need you to look in the mirror and to really honestly put yourself on blast and say, I did this to myself. And if you want to go and live a life of nothingness, prepare to have nothing. But that is the beauty of your choice. That means you're not going to have Starbucks every day with all that sugar and all those calories for $7. You're going to buy some coffee. You're going to make coffee in your little hostel or somehow, some way. And that's going to be your coffee because you chose this life. If you want to go live a life like me, I suggest you not do that. Don't look at somebody's life and say, oh, it must be great. I want that. We all grew up on different sides of the tracks based on our experiences, based on our knowledge, based on a lot of things. Not everybody's going to see life the way I do. So figure out how you see life. Figure out what brings you fulfillment. But remember, if you have responsibilities to your spouse, to your kids, to your family, you can't do this lifestyle. You can't just go and throw that away because your responsibilities. I have no responsibilities. I have no family. I choose certain people to allow them to be part of my journey, and some people I don't allow them to be part of my journey. Even though we share the same DNA, I just don't allow it. It's toxic. We don't share common values. My energy is just expended and it goes nowhere. So why am I expending any energy? But figure out what it is that you want in life. Right now in this chapter of life, and there's just many chapters, beauty of life is that you can always end a chapter to start the next chapter. And you shouldn't have to worry about letting things go because you are too scared to not have it. I was willing to let go of my 7-year marriage, even though it was a pretty damn good marriage. Because I wanted to know what the unknown was all about. Because I wanted to go through life not going the road that I had originally planned for myself, but go through a road that is, again, less traveled and do that in a solitude way. And I was willing to give up everything that we built in order to do that. What I'm trying to understand in this chapter of life is what happens when you have a life full of gratitude, that you know that every morning, if you do wake up, that is the biggest gift of life. Just waking up every single morning is the greatest gift of life because no one says you have to wake up this morning or tomorrow morning. And so what I'm trying to understand in this life is if I gave gratitude into this world, if I lived a life of solitude, if I go to a city that isn't somewhere in Vietnam and no one knows me, and it's just me, the shirt on my back, and a camera in my hand. What do I do with the opportunity? And so eventually this chapter will end. I don't think I'll live on the road for the rest of my life. I mean, I am 45, but I don't think that far down the line. I think about taking that first step, about leaving Vietnam and walking out of this country the same way I walked into this country with literally just a backpack and a suitcase and a life full of dream. And then I'll get through the next part, which is driving around the country and hopefully not get myself into too much trouble. And then if I can get through that, then I'll go to that very first step in going overseas and saying, okay, this is the life that I chose for myself. This is a life of adventure. Go do it. And there's going to be days that you don't want to go film. There are days that I go on the road and I'm just like, I don't want to film today. No one is forcing me to do this. I am not getting sponsored. I'm not doing it because I'm making money from it. I chose this path. And so I have the responsibility to myself. Again, it goes back to self-awareness and back taking it on yourself. Stop blaming everybody else for the way your life is and start fixing the things that you don't like and start appreciating things that you have, not the things that you want. If people want to do this life and they want to go be an author, they want to go write guidebooks and go live on nothing, go do it. And if you can really do it, tell me afterwards, was it the right move for you or was it the wrong move? But you'll never know until you do it.
I can't wait to, follow you on your journey, guys. Like, if you haven't already, I encourage everyone to follow Calvin on Instagram. What's your tag? FKN Delicious?
FKN Deliciousness. Mm-hmm. And you can find me on Instagram, Facebook, TikTok. It's really boring. It's just my everyday life, but you're not going to get a glimpse into my life ever again. I'm a very private person, but I chose this path because I believe that somebody out there could possibly do this so much better than I can. If I can show that person, I'm willing to sacrifice everything in this life to do it. I'm all about laughter. I'm all about living the most honest life possible, whether it looks good or doesn't look good. And you choose whether or not you want to be along with my journey. But if you don't, that's fine. And if you want to go over there and act like a fool, I don't have any energy. I just block you, and that was your one opportunity. I think that's what you got to do a lot in life, is to block people who do not share one's common values. And it's not like everybody shares my same values. I have plenty of people who are blocked. My choice. My life is so much better because I found a voice and I found an audience to speak to. And for those who do not like my message of hope and aspirations and hard work, and they think that there's some crazy hack to get things done faster, I'll tell them there's no shortcuts in life, buddy.
Well, I wish you all the best, and I thank you so much for your wise words and incredible story. I'm sure that your journey is going to be a phenomenal journey, and I'm looking forward to living through you vicariously and watching you on Instagram. I always follow you, and all the best in your journey and your career.
Thank you.